Mrs. Barclay was never satisfied. She expected perfection, but Xenia often thought rebelliously that she would not recognize it if she found it. She had been desperately miserable after the sudden deaths of her father and mother from a virulent form of influenza which had swept the whole of England and had taken its toll even on the small village of Little Combe. A number of the old people had died, which might have been expected, but there were also children and even strong labourers besides her father and mother. It had all happened so suddenly that Xenia hardly had time to realise that she was alone in the world, with nobody to care for and nobody to care for her. Mrs. Barclay, like an over-benevolent fairy godmother, had carried her off to Berkeley Towers, and before her tears were dry, she found herself being ordered around, as if she was a raw recruit under the command of a sergeant major. "Crying will do you no good," Mrs. Barclay said sharply. "I have learnt in life that it is no use fighting the unchangeable, of which death is one." She paused to say positively, "Make up your mind once and for all that you are an extremely fortunate young woman, in that I have taken you under my wing, and show your gratitude by trying to do what I require of you." It would have been easier, Xenia thought, if there had been some method or routine in Mrs. Barclay's requirements, but they changed not only day by day, but hour by hour. "But you told me to do that," she would sometimes expostulate when she was scolded and called a nitwit. "Never mind what I said before," Mrs. Barclay would snap. "This is what I want now, and I expect you to do it my way." Sometimes Xenia had begun to wonder despairingly if perhaps she really was as stupid as Mrs. Barclay told her she was. Her father had always considered her to be intelligent, and her mother had loved her deeply, so that it was almost impossible for her to find fault with such a beloved daughter. It was after she had been with Mrs. Barclay for nearly 9 months that Xenia had come to the conclusion that a clue to Mrs. Barclay's continual fault-finding where she was concerned was that she was too attractive. She was not vain, but it was impossible to alter the beauty that she had inherited from her mother, or to conceal the fact that she looked different from other girls of her age. People exclaimed at her appearance and paid her compliments, which she noticed made Mrs. Barclay's lips tighten in anger. Her employer might now be well over 40, but she had been good-looking in her youth, and there was no doubt that she resented the way that everyone who came to Berkeley Towers looked at Xenia in astonishment and kept on looking. Sometimes Xenia asked herself what was the point of having good looks if they were more of a hindrance than a help. But if she were honest, there were moments when a glint of admiration in a man's eye, however old he might be, was a source of comfort. "Perhaps one day," she thought to herself, "I shall meet somebody who will love me. Then I shall escape." She knew it was wrong not to be more grateful to Mrs. Barclay, but all day long she heard her voice calling her, berating her, criticizing, and sometimes jeering at her. It was all so unlike the happiness she had known at home. It had been very quiet in their pretty thatched cottage, which, whilst small, had many comforts compared to the other cottages in Little Combe. "Really, this place is almost habitable," Mrs. Barclay had said when she came to the cottage after the funeral. She looked around at the attractive way in which the small rooms were decorated, and at the pieces of good furniture that Xenia's father and mother had collected over the years. It was Mrs. Barclay's condescension, Xenia thought, that she resented more than anything else. She often had to fight back an impulse to tell the older woman the truth about her mother and watch with amusement her change of attitude. But that would have been betraying what Xenia considered a sacred trust. She was 14 when her mother had said one day, "You must have wondered, my dearest, why I have not talked to you about my father and mother, or my family." Xenia had looked at her wide-eyed as she went on. "Your father's relatives all live in the north, although most of them are dead now, but I have a family too." "You have, Mamma?" Xenia exclaimed. "Why have you never spoken about them to me?" "Because my past is a secret, and what I am going to tell you must be a secret, Xenia. You must promise me that you will never speak of it to anyone."